Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us in worship in our sanctuary and online. I'm Jim Kaplan, a Beth Torah member, and I'm pleased to lead worship tonight as Shaliach Tzibur, an emissary of the congregation. I'm joined by Leslie Zucker, our music director, Larry Meyer, and Randy Deitch, and by our technical team. Thank you to the Beyond Our Walls Committee for keeping us connected, and to our digital docents for managing the streaming of our worship so we can all be together. If you are technically inclined and would like to help, please contact the office staff for more information. For immediate technical help tonight at home, you can reach out to CBT's Technical Assistance Line, TAL, at 913-303-1134. Text your phone number, and a docent will call you as soon as they can help you. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, links to a PDF of the prayer pages and other information will be posted in the comments section on the left. If you're watching from our virtual sanctuary, the link to the PDF containing the prayer pages is above the video player, and all the other links to information are in your e-news for this week. For those of you here and at home using Mishkan Tefillah, if your prayer book has two sets of numbers, we'll be using the blue page numbers in the brackets. If you are watching us on Facebook Live, please share your good wishes with the congregation by typing Shabbat Shalom in the comments line and send your message by hitting Enter. We welcome Shabbat together by lighting the Shabbat candles. The blessing is on page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We read together on page 125. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat, abide. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time, contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat, abide. On page 130, we join in singing the first two lines of Psalm 95 that begins, "Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai." greet Shabbat on page 138 with Lechato D, verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Continue in the middle of page 147. O God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the furthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. O let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence. We continue together on page 151. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. unto your God. Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Page 160. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukkah shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'avol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukkah shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'avol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim
We begin the Amida, our silent meditation, together on pages 164 and 66, and then continue reading silently to page 180, adding the prayers that are in your hearts. When you have completed your prayer, please be seated.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Hasevot v'Imahot, U'mevig Ula livnei bneihem, L'man Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'ezrat Sarah.
Elohim Sorischen Mima, Mishpatai Medaber Mirma, Lavin Kolai Nafshi Tidom, Nafshi Ke'amalakoti Elohim, Elohim.
As we prepare to pray for healing, we must acknowledge the civil unrest and battles in Israel with death and damage to Israeli and Palestinian soldiers, police, and to civilian families. In commentary on this week's Parsha in Bamidbar Rabbah, it is written, "It is only through peace that God comforts Jerusalem." From the Rabbinical Association of Greater Kansas City statement on this recent unrest, we deplore all acts of violence and distance ourselves from extremist religious views that foster a climate of discord and enmity among our people. We offer a prayer for the state of Israel. Our God and the God of our fathers and mothers, the God of the fear of Isaac, the God of Yael, the God of the good spirit of Saul, God of Israel, please, with the great force of your right hand, for them, if not for you, fence our boundaries at the sea, the east, the north, and the south. Cover our world under your wing of divine presence. Give wisdom and understanding to our elders and our government. Distance from them any dishonorable deed. Lead them in the path of just and the good, for we have put our lives in their hands. Sit our judges on thrones of justice and enlighten their hearts with your Torah, so that they may walk blamelessly before you. Please, with the great force of your right hand, spread over the protectors of our land the canopy of your peace. Lift your hand over them, save them from all enemy and ambush, from all bullets that threaten their souls. Give them the strength and heart to distinguish between enemy and lover, between the people of wickedness and the people of Abraham. Please, with the great force of your right hand, guard the state of Israel, our eternal homeland. For the sake of exalting your name among all the inhabitants of the world, please with force, please without the use of force. We continue on page 371. The Mishaberach asks for healing. There is a list for some of those who need our prayers of healing, be it emotional, spiritual, or physical, in the e-news that you received this morning. The link is also at the left in the comments. If you have additional names to add, please type them in the comments now so that we may include them in our prayers. For those who are here with us, we offer an opportunity to identify any others who may need our prayers. The words to the Mishaberach are on page 371. We offer a prayer for those who help support those who are in need. May those who care for the sick with their hands, their voices, and their hearts be blessed with courage and stamina. May those who pursue healing through medical skills and knowledge, be blessed with insight, patience, and compassion. May all of us, the sick and the well together, find courage and hope, and let us say, Amen. If you've had a particularly good week, please share your special simcha, your joy, such as a birthday, an anniversary, good news, or an accomplishment, by typing it in the Facebook Live comments and pressing enter, or by announcing it as you are recognized. For those who are here in person, I'll repeat your simcha so others can hear. Wednesday will be your 48th wedding anniversary. Mazel tov. Yesterday, your son had his 27th birthday. Mazel tov. Yesterday was your 20th wedding anniversary. Mazel tov comes after that, yes. Mazel tov. Any others? And those who have contributed on the Facebook. The Facebook, I sound so old. Thank you for sharing your simchas with us. In honor of your events, I'd like to relay a Hasidic tale told by Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Rebbe tells a story about Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement. It seems the Baal Shem Tov was an incessant. Let me try that again. It seems the Baal Shem Tov. Did you get that right? It seems the Baal Shem Tov. I didn't know this was a tongue twister. Was an incessant traveler. He would dress in the clothes of a simple voyager and travel from town to town, asking questions. How are things, he would inquire of the water carrier yoked to his pails, of the child playing in the doorway of his home, or of the woman in the market minding her stall. Is there enough to eat? Is everyone healthy? And they would answer, Baruch Hashem, blessed be the mighty, all is fine. Or, Baruch Hashem, thanks to the Almighty, things are improving. The Baal Shem Tov would proceed to the next village with the gratified step of one who had found that what he was seeking. One day, the rabbi arrived at a village and made his way to the study hall near the center of town. There in a corner sat an elderly Torah scholar, surrounded by his books, wrapped in talit and tefillin. This was the village ascetic, who led a life of holy seclusion. From sunrise to sunset, not a morsel of bread or a sip of water would pass his lips. He spoke to no one and never lifted his eyes from his sacred tomes. For more than 50 years, he kept to this regimen, utterly removed from the mundane cares of material life. The rabbi approached the ascetic scholar, whose face was buried in his book. How are things, he inquired. Is there enough to eat? Is everyone healthy? Why was this stranger pestering him, thought the scholar. He made no reply, hoping the stranger would go away. But the stranger only leaned in further, and his questioning grew more and more insistent. Impatiently, the scholar waved him away, pointing to the door. Rabbi, the stranger asked, why are you denying God his livelihood? These words had their intended effect. The old man was roused to indignant attention. God's livelihood, the audacity of this uncouth peasant, he thought. In a thunderous voice, he demanded, what are you saying? How dare you disturb me with such blasphemous babble? I mean only what King David, the sweet singer of Israel, proclaims in the Psalms, replied the Baal Shem Tov. Tell me, sir, what is the meaning of the verse, and you, the Holy One, who dwells by the praises of Israel? The scholar didn't reply. The Baal Shem Tov continued, we mortal beings subsist on the sustenance that God provides us through the greatest of kindness. But what does God subsist on? as David proclaimed on the praises of Israel. When one Jew asks another, "How are things?" and the fellow responds by praising and thanking the Almighty, they are nourishing God and deepening God's involvement with God's creation, said the Baal Shem Tov. Baruch Hashem. And he went on to the next town. In appreciation that you have nourished us and Adonai by sharing your simchas with us, I offer the following prayer. Divine source of blessing, we thank you for everything that enriches our lives. We turn to you now with gratitude as we share in the happiness of all those who have come forward as they mark the simcha moments that enhance their weeks. Adonai, be with them now and always. May they be blessed with health and happiness and with the strength to overcome sickness and sorrow. We honor each one of you for the gifts that you bring to this sacred community as we join together in singing the Shehachianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
So we begin a new book of the Torah this Shabbat, the book of Bamidbar. The text begins, Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe Bamidbar Sinai, and God spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai. Midbar obviously means wilderness and represents both the emotional stage and the environment that the Israelites are entering. They're getting ready to transition from Egypt, which they just left, via a 40-year journey through the wilderness of Sinai, leading them to Canaan, the promised land of milk and honey. Before they get moving, we get about 10 chapters performing a census of who's present, defining each tribe's job, specifying how they will align as they proceed through the desert, and where they will be encamped when they stop moving, as well as setting out a few more laws and rules, as if we hadn't already covered enough laws and rules in the book we just finished, Vayikra or Leviticus. A census begins Parsha Bamidbar, and then God instructs the tribes and the Levites to take certain positions around the Mishkan, the tabernacle, which was to be the center of the camp and remain the center as they traveled through the Midbar, the wilderness. Gunter Plaut points out in his Torah commentary that the ark and the tabernacle were the foci of people's attention and powerful symbols of God's presence for the assembled tribes. In Eitz Chaim, in the commentary, we read that every individual was located in relation to the ark and the tabernacle. The tabernacle was the first thing people saw on leaving home, and the last thing they saw, and the thing that they looked for when returning home. Gradually, this physical centrality must have led the ark's gaining a central place in the Israelites' soul. The message is that, like our ancestors, although each of us may see God from a different perspective, depending upon, of course, where we encamp in life, God remains the focal point, anchoring us in good times and bad. Parsha Bamidbar is read on the Shabbat before Shavuot, known as Zaman Matan Toratenu, the time of the giving of our law, referring to the revelation at Mount Sinai. Although what was given there was actually the Ten Commandments, the Aseret HaDibrot, the rabbis after the Second Temple destruction focused on the Israelite response that they would do and obey all that Adonai had spoken, and thus, when we accepted the Ten Commandments, we accepted the 613 laws of the Torah. My father, Zichrono Livracha, was a lawyer, and he used to refer to the collection of the rest of any set of rules as page Gimel, Aleph Beit Gimel, sort of like fine print, that nebulous location where you could find all the other stuff in the Torah that we agreed to when we signed on to the original Ten Commandments. In my family, any new edict that we didn't think was a fair rule was located on page Gimel and was equally binding as the original rules that we knew. The rabbis say that each of the 613 laws in the Torah can be traced back to the Ten Commandments, and I think the key to that is probably on page Gimel. Thank you. As is usually the case, The rabbinic sages sought a connection between Parsha Bamidbar that we read this Shabbat and the observance of Shavuot, discerning that there must be a significance in the juxtaposition of the two events. In the sequence of Parshiot, Bamidbar generally always precedes Shavuot. The connection between the two, however, is not always immediately apparent. Parsha Bamidbar does not mention the giving of the Torah. It's about a census of the Israelites, counting the men who are 20 to 60 years old and ready to go to war as they make their way toward the Promised Land. As the Parsha begins, we are not at Mount Sinai, where the revelation of the Torah occurs. We're about to enter the Sinai wilderness and not even headed towards Mount Sinai. Nevertheless, the sages were able to connect the Parsha and its revelation that occurs on Shavuot. To unwrap this, we have to draw together several concepts and metaphors, each of which comes in threes. The first issue, discussed in the Midrash in Bamidbar Rabbah, asks, why did we need to know that God spoke to Moses in the Sinai wilderness? This Midrash tells us that there were three important elements present at the time: fire, water, and desert. To discover these critical elements, we have to pull together disparate verses that come from different places. We learn about fire when in Exodus 19 we read about the revelation that all of Mount Sinai was smoking when God descended upon it in fire. Water is specified in Judges 5 in the Song of Deborah, which tells us that when the Torah was given, the heavens and the clouds dripped with water. And we learn about the desert in this week's Parsha, in Exodus, and also in Exodus 19, when God speaks to Moses in the wilderness of the Sinai desert. So hang on to that threesome: fire, water, and desert. Okay, the sages also tell us there are three keys to successful study of Torah. First, hard work and intense involvement in study. Second, happiness and joy while studying. And third, humility, derived from the insight that our lessons are not just from our own efforts, but due to the kindness of God who gave us Torah. So now hang on to those three things: hard work, happiness, and humility. The sages further point out the importance of preparing for Torah study in the Talmud in Brachot 11b by defining three different opinions of the proper blessing we should say before we begin our studies. Rav Yehuda claimed that we should recite the blessing, "Who has commanded us to be involved in the study of Torah." Rabbi Yochanan claimed we should say, "May you make the words of Torah sweet in our mouths." Rav Hamnuna said that we should say, "Blessed are you, the one who gives Torah." The Talmud ends this debate by concluding that we should say a blessing that includes all three opinions, and we do this to this day, for example, before we study Torah each Shabbat. So Rabbi Shmuel Bornstein, in a book published posthumously in the 20s, Shem B'Shmuel, brought together this threesome of trios, and he connected the elements present at the giving of Torah to our modern practice of Torah today. First of all, fire symbolizes hard work, which corresponds to being involved with the study of Torah. Water symbolizes happiness, especially in an agrarian society like the land of Israel, in which virtually every aspect of life depends on water. This corresponds to making the Torah sweet in our mouths. The desert represents humility, being low and sweepingly empty, flat, and something people walk all over. This corresponds to the blessing offered to the one who gives Torah, since we need humility to recognize that there is an external power beyond our successes. Rabbi Shmuel points out that it is these elements that originate in Parsha Bamidbar that connect us to Shavuot, like three intertwined threads. In our modern times, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks also reflected on the juxtaposition of this week's Torah, this week's Parsha, occurring in the Sinai wilderness, and the revelation of Torah at Mount Sinai. He wrote that the wilderness is a place of silence where you can hear the voice of God. In fact, in Talmud, we are instructed we should make ourselves blank and empty like the desert wilderness, so we're able to fill that emptiness with Torah. The wilderness, said Rabbi Sacks, is a place where we're vulnerable. We're like sheep in need of a shepherd. And there you feel your isolation, and you're driven to reach out to a force beyond you. Moreover, the sages recognized several other important reasons Torah was revealed to us in the desert. In addition to our openness to receptivity there, giving us laws in a place such as the Promised Land would have tied the religious laws to those settlers and that place. Giving the Torah to a generation in development in the middle of the vast emptiness set up our Torah as the core of Judaism for everywhere we existed and for all time. including all future generations beyond borders and beyond time. As it is said in Isaiah 54, and all your children shall be learned of Adonai, and great shall be the peace of your children. The Midrash tells us in Bamidbar Rabbah that to reach a new and improved state, we need to learn to open ourselves up like the Midbar, Oseh Atzmo Kamidbar. If you want a new and improved soul, you have to erase your ego, let go of our old doubts and fears, and start from scratch, blank as a wilderness. We read in Itre Torah that if one wishes to merit the receiving of Torah, one must be completely empty, like Midbar, and that God's presence, the Shekhinah, will rest only on one who is worthy, one who has made himself like the Midbar. When Joseph and subsequently his brothers came to Egypt, the whole tribe numbered 70. When we take the census in Parsha Bamidbar, coming out of Egypt, the males between 20 and 60 number 603,550. And by Bamidbar chapter 26 in Parshat Pinchas, the census is 601,730. Numbers are not that important. The point is, it's a clean slate of new Israelites who had rebooted the population with the Torah as their guide, since nearly all the elders had died off in the 40-year schlep through the Midbar. They were ready to leave wilderness, and they were no longer narrow-minded with an escaping from mentality derived from being downtrodden slaves, but rather they had adopted the Torah given them in the Midbar and developed an emerging toward mentality, ready to start over with improved souls. The obvious corollary is that it doesn't really matter how you fix your flaws, one by one, or with a completely blank slate and restart. To get from a narrow place to a flowing soul, you need to completely dump all the old baggage in Midbar and start anew. As we head into wilderness in Parsha Bamidbar and in today's state of Israel, I pray we may be lifted by Torah, hopefully making a successful transition from narrow, constrained beings to flowing souls, open to a better, peaceful life. Ken Yiratzon. We continue our worship reading together on page 591. At the top of the page. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. Together from the bottom of page 593. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen, yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives, we gave life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. We recall those recently laid to rest during the Shloshim period. Phyllis Lenski, cousin of Judy Weingarten, Lisa Jones, sister and sister-in-law of Cynthia and Mark Connor. Polina Baderman, grandmother and grandmother-in-law of Vlada and Ilya Binstock, and great-grandmother of Emily Binstock. And we recall those who are in the whose yortzeit occurs this week. Alex Applebaum, Morris E. Balo, Bernard Barney Barash, Janice Block, Adrian Cohen, Avia Cole, Betty Deitch, Charles Fair, Joseph A. Frankel, Isabel Fremmerman, Alfred Gilgore, Marvin J. Goldberg, Helen Hipsch, Sarah Kodolov, Eugene Kurash, Paul Frank Pecora, Richard Polyp, Fern Reedy, Molly Rosenfeld, Mildred Roth, Harry Rubin, Ruth Sains, Esther E. Schlesinger, J. Victor Schultz, Rosanna Shaw, Samuel Zafmacher, Sally Zwiebelman. If you have any names to add to our list, please let us know. Or enter them in the Facebook Live so we may join them in our prayers. Kaddish Yotom is on page 598. We rise and read together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dekol beit Yisrael, v'agalal v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mavarach li'olam olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, ve'imru, amen.
We do have some announcements, so you won't be disappointed. I'd like to thank Leslie, Larry, Randy, and our technical team. Please join us for Sichat Shabbat tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Zoom. The Zoom link is found in this week's e-news. Our next Shabbat service is tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. This service will be live streamed, as always, on Facebook and our virtual sanctuary. Our virtual sanctuary. There will not be an in-person participation. On June 18th, we'll be recognizing our 2021 graduates. Parents of high school seniors, watch for an email from Sharon Altman requesting information for that Simcha moment, and it is a major Simcha moment. If you or someone you love is matriculating this spring or summer, please contact Sharon or the office and let us know.
It's a good word.
It is.
It's a good word. Song session is Wednesday, the 19th, 7 o'clock on Virtual Sanctuary and Facebook Live. And you received in your midweek reminder a High Holy Day choir and band survey. Beth Torah members, we are looking good for having a choir and a band this year for the High Holy Days. If cases continue to go down, I'm very excited. So please fill out the survey. If you are a member and you haven't filled it out and you're interested in singing or playing with us, let us know.
Do you want me to do this? Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Sunday is Erev Shavuot, about which Jim spoke so eloquently. And we are having a picnic and a service. It's BYOP, bring your own picnic. And we have it on the back lawn at 5 o'clock, and then the service is at 6 o'clock. If rain requires that we are inside, we're going to make that decision. We'll send you an email at 1 o'clock so that you can make the choice that is best for you and your family, that makes you most comfortable. But we will still have services one way or the other. If it's dryish, we'll be outside-ish. And if it's wettish, we'll be inside-ish. Let's pretend like I said something really awesome right there, because that was just silly. Finally, join us for our second to-go neg in the Ulam following services. Thank you to Howard and Gloria Pittler for sponsoring tonight's to-go neg in honor of their upcoming 48th wedding anniversary on May 19th. If you are interested in learning more about sponsoring this new initiative, please contact Aviva.
During these times, Kesharim, or connections, are really more important than ever. I encourage each of you to connect to Beth Torah during these challenging times. We are here for each other. You may contact the rabbis, you may contact any of the staff, and we are here to support you. Shabbat Shalom. Please stand, those of you who are here, or those at home if you wish. We close worship with a mashup of two songs of peace. The message in English is, "Nation shall not take up sword against nation, they shall never study war." Peace shall surely come to us. Peace shall surely come to us, to everyone. Peace shall come to us, for us and the entire world. Shalom Aleinu, Ogivo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam, Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam, Salam, Salam, Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam, Salam, Salam. Ogivo Shalom Aleinu, Ogivo Shalom Aleinu, Ogivo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Ogivo Shalom Aleinu, Ogivo Shalom Aleinu, Ogivo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam, Salam, Salam, Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam, Salam, Salam. Ogivo Shalom Aleinu, Ogivo Shalom Aleinu, Ogivo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Take care of each other.